welcome to another episode of Tea Talks. Today we're just going to kind of, I don't want to say shoot the breeze, but we're going to a little bit talk about just the process of coming over from America to Dubai as a family unit. My name is Jes'ka Washington. I am your host for this series, and I'm so happy to be here, and I am joined by the Johnson family. So if you don't mind, introduce yourselves for a second.
I am Coral Johnson.
I'm Ennis Johnson.
And just for the record, you guys are married.
Yes.
Because moving over here with a significant other in the UAE must be a spouse. You can't move over and get your type of accommodations. And how long have you been married?
11 years.
You better go with that decade, man. And so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of just start the question first about, as you two as a unit, how did you come to the understanding that you wanted to move your careers, your family, your children, and your lives to overseas?
I think I came to that conclusion before he did, because I'm from the Bahamas. I had already made a significant move to the U.S. before coming to Dubai, and in that transition, as soon as you got your new president, I was like, it's time to go. And so it just took us a while for, I guess, him to be convinced by how are we going to do this, especially because we had 2 kids and we had to figure out if that was even a thing, if it was possible for us to bring our 2 children and our whole family to anywhere. Anywhere.
Yeah, so yeah, for me, I was just like, I'm from, as you see on the previous episode, I'm from Memphis, I'm from the South, and which is a smaller like city, so you're used to just being in this one area. And then I kind of moved around in the States, but to move away was pretty crazy to me. But we just went through a lot of changes, and we were like just working, and you know, in education there was just like it just seemed like a dead end. As we moved forward, it still seemed like 5 steps behind, and it was just time for a change. And we saw, it was one of our friends, Marla, shout out to Marla Hunter. She was doing a series about families going, and Coral showed me, and I was like, maybe. And so we started looking into it, and it was just time for a big life change. And so we looked into it, and kind of happened.
So when you talk about and you just didn't know that hesitation, what were things that were really holding you back from saying yes to international?
I think initially was not even knowing it was possible.
Okay.
So even though we had Marla, a lot of it felt like that was for single people. Like, this is not a thing that, not just married, but married with 2 children. Like, this is not a thing that can happen for us. So how can we make it work? So I think that was the biggest thing holding us back. Like, how can we make this work as a unit with 2 little people traveling along with us? So that was one of the things.
And then I think, you know, for me was just that lack of, you know, when you're growing up in America, you're kind of engulfed in this mindset to believe that places outside of America is not as good or as civilized or as, you know, forward thinking. And so that was scary to be like, oh, I'm going to leave the, you know, where it was quote unquote comfortable.
Yes.
Even though it's not really comfortable being black in America. But anyway, where it was, you know, so-called comfortable, and then moving somewhere that, you know, is you know, it's not as, you know, safe and those things where you thought at the time. And so, yeah, and we just learned that, hey, it's actually safer, it's better, it's more things that you can do for your family.
So I was going to say, part of the things is when you talk about those misconceptions, what is it that you learned? Like, now that you're over here, you kind of look back and you're like, oh, I wish I had known this. Wish I known that. Like,
I think I wish we had known sooner that it was for anybody. Like, anybody can do this as long as you're qualified and you have especially in teaching, you have the ability to be a good teacher. So I think to say we wish we had known, especially the amount of money you could make just like not having to pay for certain things that we had to pay for, or we had to pay for our house or electricity, just I wish we had known this sooner, and that way not, I guess, get into debt or have all these bills. So I think that's one of the things we wish we knew sooner.
Yeah, I would agree. And just the security and financially, like, it's just, I mean, our account from a year ago when we were in the States, and our account now looks dramatically different.
With children.
With children.
Absolutely.
With children. I
Yeah.
mean, we had a house, and we were living in Texas. We had a house, 4-bedroom house,
Yes.
pretty decent house. We moved here. We're in a bigger space.
Square footage. The square footage wise,
even bigger.
it's bigger.
Wow. Okay.
Of course, you know, we don't pay for it. It comes with our package, and it's amazing what we're able to, like, the quality of life is amazing. How much better it is for us and for the kids. I mean, for everything, financially, mentally, we're able to get them whatever support they need, whether it's for school or they need extra, you know, learning support, whatever. We're able to do whatever we need to. We want to put them in dance classes and piano classes or whatever. We can do that comfortably.
And I was going to say, so I was going to move to that piece because you are responsible for 2 beautiful human beings and growing them and making sure that they become whatever you want them to come. So I don't want to say what has changed, but what have you seen is possible for them with this move? Was it hard for them to adjust? What growth have you seen for your kids?
Well, first, was it hard for them to adjust? Not really, because their constant, even then, was us. And because they're so young, they're 7 and 5, their constant was mainly us. And where we lived in Texas, their grandparents weren't around. My parents were in the Bahamas. His parents were in wherever, because they're always someplace different. But their constant was mainly us. The things that we're able to provide for them now, like my oldest needs speech. And so she needed speech therapy at the time. And that was something that was difficult for us to afford. And now it's like, okay, she can go to therapy outside of what the school is providing. And so that was one of the big things now. For them, they're happier here because they have more things to do. So if you ever ask them where they prefer, they're always like Dubai, because there's more to do here. And I think that more to do comes in with us being financially secure to be able to give it to them. You know?
Oh, say one thing too, I think, and I don't know, I have no children, but also I think with the time management out here, are you able to find yourself spending more time as a family together?
Yes, because, well, in our
I said
current...
COVID.
Right. I mean, maybe a little bit more time than needed, but outside of the COVID, like, we're all at one school. So Coral, she taught high school, I was at middle school, and then we had one that was in
elementary and one daycare.
Right. So we're all at different. We were like practically in the same district in the States. We're at different schools. Where now we're all
at the same place.
At the same place. So it's a big campus. So it's not like we see each other all the time, but we're all in one school. So it's that safety is there as well. Like we're right there. I can go right over to her school on an off period if she has something going on. So we do find more time, and right after school they can have after school programs and things of that nature. And it's very manageable to be able to kind of to take part in whatever they have going on as much as we could. Of course we're still teachers, but yeah.
So then I want to kind of go back to when you were still in the States, Texas, and you made the decision to come over. I don't want to say shut down, period, and that's a personal question. Are you guys making the plan to go back or those things? But what did you have to be cautious about in making the trip to come over here? Like, did you keep the house, like those kind of things? Like, what technical things did you have to do in order to make sure you could move over here?
Again, because I've made a transition before, even though I was much younger. This transition almost felt a little bit kind of the same, where I said, we're getting rid of it all. Because my goal, when I moved to the States...
Real quick, when she said you're getting rid of it all, how did you feel? Because I saw your face right there.
Yeah, it was, I didn't like it. 'Cause I had some stuff that I just was like, no. And then, of course, she tricked me and say, oh, we could get another one there. I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get something better.
But here's the thing. When I moved to the States, my goal was, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to work and I'm going to be there and do all these things. And this is what I explained to him, that we're going to move to Dubai and it's going to be just like when I moved to America, where I said I was going to go back and I never did. I visit all the time, but like going back to stay, that never happened.
Okay.
And so in my heart, I really felt like we're going to go and we're gonna stay. And it's not necessarily Dubai, but you know,
You're basically saying we're going to
international.
make this move to be international.
Exactly. And so with that mindset, I'm like, get rid of this house, sell these cars. We have no anything, which is, I know.
Yeah.
Sad.
And so even with the house, like, I think we were already like prepared for a change. Like we was renting.
Okay.
And we rented
Makes it
for
easier.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we rented for a while because we didn't know. Like we would always talk about what's next and do we really want to just get something concrete, and we thought about it and we just kind of stayed with it, and then this happened, so it was easier to kind of get rid of a lot of the stuff. But I didn't come over here thinking that, you know, we're gonna stay. I was like, okay, well, let's give this a try.
We get a year,
Let's see what happens.
2 years.
Yeah, so my eyes have been opened, you know, to see, you know, what the world was like then, what it's like now, what's next, and it's kind of like, I don't know about going back. It's, you know.
So I think that's one thing that is really impactful. Once you make the move, you can't talk about it enough, but I think your mindset changes.
Yes.
The possibilities change. Did that same change come for you, or like did you start seeing things differently?
Go for it.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because again, I didn't think that it would be the way that it is. I didn't think that it would be so many things that was so much better. Because the conditioning of being in America, you're kind of taught that everywhere else is just not. It's worse.
You really are.
Yeah.
And so coming out, it's like, you know what? There's so much that's better. I can't even. The comparison is not even there. So it's like you realize that, and then you start. Then you're able to travel more and do all these things. And so it's like, man, why? Like,
I would
why do
say
have
if
to
you
go
look
back?
at it, and I don't know like who's watching or not, I feel that America is kind of like, and I hate saying the word island, but they are. And I know we talk about maybe other countries who like, oh, they don't let you have this media, they don't let you have this Facebook, but in the same area where you're in America, we have such a beautiful, strong language on how great we are. And it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to say that, but I would say maybe like the Cinderella story, but it's the ugly stepsisters who didn't know they was ugly, and they were like, I do this and I do that because they were spoiled, and they were like, you just have such this beautiful, or the emperor with no clothing, like this beautiful image of what you are and who you are, because everybody has told it to you time and time again, time and time again, time and time again, that you don't realize that you only see things in a different lens or through a lens of scrutiny. And that really does change what you think, because when you first tell people I'm going to the Middle East, they're thinking nothing but sand.
Right. Yeah.
They're thinking nothing but desert. What are you going to do? You're going to be an outsider. You're going to be all of these things. And then you get out here and it's like,
It's nothing like.
dude, it's New York City. Like,
Yes.
Right,
Like, where is the sand? Where is the sand?
where is all of this building? So I would say that what you're speaking about when you say, you know, America kind of taught you with this mindset.
Yeah.
So when you think about how you grew up, and we're talking about two different cultures here,
Yeah.
and then we now talk about your daughters. Has their language now changed?
Absolutely. So quickly too. I think I remember the first it changed. I think we got here in August last year, and by I think it was October, just the things coming out of their mouth, I'm like, who are you? Like, why do you know this? For example, we took a weekend or week trip to Sri Lanka, and all of a sudden they're like, this balcony is so small. And I'm just like, you didn't even know what a balcony was like a year ago. Like, what are you talking about? And just opening their minds to even the cultures in their classroom. When their teachers are Indian and they're coming home giving me Hindu words, I'm just like, how do you know that? What does that mean? Or speaking Arabic, and I'm just like, how do you know these things? So immediately I could tell like a shift in what they're learning just by who they're around even.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that piece too, and the shift in the mindset, it's so much easier to see those changes in the babies. Have you adapted to understanding those changes as well? Are you still hesitant about the next step or the next journey? Or are you kind of like, maybe I can try a couple of new things or whatever?
I mean, I think, yeah, for sure. Like, it's like the world has opened up. You know what I mean? Like, now it's like, I wonder what it'd be like, in somewhere else. And so now knowing and being able to travel more, it just opens up. The world becomes so much smaller, and it's a lot of things that was previously far-fetched now seems like you can be international in what you do. It's not is actually probably easier elsewhere than it is there, or you just get a closer reach onto the things that you couldn't conceive before.
So what are the goals? Like now, if I say, hey, what's going on with the Johnson family? What do you look forward to trying or doing after COVID?
Right.
Once you have your vaccine.
I mean, it's limitless, right? Possibilities are endless. I think when you ask that question, are you asking professionally or are you asking personally?
I think when I ask that question, it's more so how you interpret it. And I think that's one thing where I will say that's probably a beautiful thing, is because if you're so busy running, and I'll say this for people who may be back home, if you're so busy running, when somebody asks you a question, we tend to naturally go for the professional answer. Oh, I'm going to be at this point. I'm going to have a house. I'm going to be making this kind of money. And the fact that you came back and said, wait a minute, you talking about professionally or you talking about personally? Because you get the space to be able to say, I want to be able to grow this way if I choose to, or I can grow this direction if I choose to. So I will say, for the sake of what we're doing as a family, your goals, what are the things that you guys want to do personally? What do you want to be able to experience?
And this is something I think I wanted to experience even before we moved and decided to move. Because I remember when I was younger, my parents would take me on vacations all the time. And whether that was simply America or Mexico or just the Western world, every summer we would go somewhere. And so when it comes to what I want, especially for my children, is for them to be able to see the world and understand that people can have different views, and you don't have to agree, but you don't have to disagree in such a angry tone, maybe. But understand that people are different and respect the differences that are. And so for me, I think for me, it's more about them now. As a parent, I guess your mindset shifts to how can I make life better for them, so that they don't understand, like you gave the analogy of America being an island, that they realize that the world is bigger than just an island.
Yeah, I agree. Just, of course, the original goal is to come out and travel, but because we're kind of on lockdown, it's like, it gives you a whole nother appreciation for being able to do that. So just being able to get them to see more of the world, and even just moving forward, I'm into production, so I want to get more involved in the production sphere where there's video, music, and all these things. So I want to just get more involved in the culture here and different things that's going around in the city. And not take it for granted now that or whenever COVID is kind of slows down. Well,
and I'll say this piece for everyone. I think, and I will say, I am speaking from someone with no children, but there's a mindset that every person goes through. You learn from your youth and these things, and you naturally take some of these habits into adulthood. And for children that I've seen who've had the experience of visiting countries or going to different continents and being around just a vast amount of people, they're able to see things in a much different viewpoint. They're able to turn around and kind of speak even to what they might think morally is right or wrong with what they have, because they've seen so many different things. And so you're saying that with your children, that taking them out of this one perspective and then putting them into another one, and maybe another one, what they're doing is they're able to start growing and understanding different perspectives, but then they'll be able to be stronger on their own personal one and who they are as people. So I take that same conversation and I now kind of look at it as you guys, even as a couple, what is it that you're trying to promote in your new learning and growth? I know that's deep.
It made me think about just from the beginning, before when we were just teaching in the States and we didn't know that this was a possibility.
Yeah.
And to be, we have friends that are educators back at home and have kids. And just knowing like there's an opportunity for a family that can live abroad and come to this whole new world of like education where educators are treated in a manner you can never dream of.
Yeah.
Like, you know, versus what's back in the States. And so you can have this experience where it can get you financially stable to where you might want to be, or it could get you into a place of safety and security that you might never even know, or your kids might never even see. Right? So I think one major goal is that hope maybe some other families might be inspired to, you know, maybe take
try
the lead.
trip.
Yeah.
And I'll say this piece too. When you talk about being a teacher back in the States, there seems to be an appreciation for teachers, but it is an expected sacrifice.
Yeah.
They expect for you to give, and people kind of say, well, this is your purpose or this is your passion. And in that, while this might be my purpose or my passion or I love to teach, it doesn't mean that I have to endure being beat the entire time.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that I have to endure taking these hits or these slaps. And I'm not just saying physically, I'm talking about even emotionally or draining, or you're not good enough, you need to do better, you need to do more, you need to do more. And then you're being literally graded on a test and just the test. And I say all that because then I look at when you talk about that for teaching, and it's exhausting. And you do it with a smile on your face because you love your kids. And you constantly do that. It is a difference, and I'll sit here and say this, the problem that comes with America is even if it is a sacrifice, because just because you move overseas doesn't mean that teaching is going to be perfect. But the problem is when you have that sacrifice that you're giving emotionally and you're giving it out financially, and then you're going to a house and then you have to give to the house emotionally, and you have to give to the house financially, and then you're going and you're having to do these errands and you don't have time to breathe, and then it feels like I have to ask permission to breathe, and you have so many people fighting for mental health. The one thing that I will say, at least internationally, because I'm not going to sit here and say just because you move internationally, your teaching life is going to be the same. I'm going to sit here and say that because most times when you move internationally, you're able to manipulate the time and money better, so you can find that sanity. And you can't dismiss that opportunity. Even if some people just want to go and come here and then they go back, you can, but there is a place to do your profession. And breathe just a little, or spend more time with your kids, or to grow them, or even work on your own marriage. And I didn't say that in a negative way, because to have that time, you come home, you ain't tired. Know that age in that aspect. So anything that you want to just walk away with saying before we kind of shut this down, anything that's just kind of like that moment of, if I don't say anything else, I want this to be known.
I think for me, if I don't say anything else, I want people to know that this is a thing that married people with kids can do. Because that was something we didn't have or know. And so, not just can do, should do. Because of, like you said, the opportunity to have the mental capacity and space to be able to enjoy your family and your kids because you're not stressed out by financial things. That's like the least of our worries at this point. So married couples with kids
Can do this.
Even if your spouse is the only one that's a teacher. That's another thing. I mean, we're both teachers, but we have teachers on our school, and probably yours too, that are just one person's a teacher and the spouse is not. So.
And there's so many opportunities out here too. Outside of that, and I mean, same thing. I agree. Like you can do it, you should do it, and for us, it's been even better than what life was before. So.
I'll say this before I close it out, and you touched on this a little bit, and I'm going to try to paraphrase it, is that if you're watching this video and you've made it this long, there's a reason. And so it is okay to follow your heart. It is okay to turn around and look and say, I don't know if something's right, but I can try something else. Because I'll say the worst thing you can do is fail, but failing just means you're going back to a step that you've already seen before. The other piece I'm going to sit here and say is, not only is it okay to follow your heart, it's okay to listen to somebody else's heart and say, you know what, I don't know what you got going on, but I'm going to hold your hand and be there, and we can figure it out together. And that's really what a step moving abroad is all about. It is always going to be scary. It is always going to be the unknown. But if you can turn around and if you're a couple, hold on to each other and hold on to your family and say, this is the unit that's going to be the unbreakable unit, you'll be fine. If you're a single person, just take a picture of your mom. Take yourself up. But it's possible, as long as you can find that piece of sanity to stand on and say that no matter what, this is what I understand, you're going to be fine to make the jump. Thank you so much for coming. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I'm just going to say for the record, if you've seen a couple of side eyes off camera, we got 2 children here. So, hey, that's sometimes what we have to do. But thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And I will see you at the next Tea Talks.